Don't even think about going anywhere because today's episode, we got Sarah Z on the JOB. In my network marketing career, I went from struggling, losing money for 5 years to becoming one of the highest income earners in the world and producing more than $22 billion worth of revenue for my team and my clients. I'm Randy Gage, and this is the Duplication Nation MLM Pod. Hey, welcome back to another episode. As you've probably discerned by now, this is another one of the legendary Chopping It Up series. If you're new to the podcast, it's been a while. It's been at least a month or two since we've done one of these. I think West Linden was the last one. But I just get together with somebody who's a friend of mine in the business, people who operating at a high level of success and consciousness and results. And we have a private conversation, and you get to eavesdrop in. I don't interview them. They don't interview me. We don't do any production stuff. I keep the camera on for you guys on YouTube who like to see visuals. Obviously, I need a little more color, I think, this week because you are popping off that screen and I'm looking a little mediocre, I think. I should have worn my pink shirt or something. So anyway, Sarah Zolecki,
Hi,
welcome to the
Randy.
podcast.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. Who would have thought that, a few years later, we'd have to meet up on a podcast, right? But here we are. I'm excited.
Here we are, and I'm excited
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So I think I should be a gentleman and defer to you.
Okay.
For new people who don't know, basically, I come with like 3 or 4 things I would like the guests to chat, just to talk about, and they bring 3 or 4 things that they want me to chat about, and we just bounce back and forth. So I will give you the honor of going first.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, um, I actually just want to publicly thank you, Randy. I mean, you have blessed my husband and I. I don't want to start crying. It's already been like 2 minutes on here. But, I don't think people realize
Please
the
do. I can excerpt it out and put it on social media and drive some clickbait.
But I think people don't really realize the power of a mentor. You know what I mean? I think that so many times people come into our lives and we so easily just kind of take it for granted. And, I look back, so Tony and I, we've been in the business 30 years, right? And you and I and Tony had a chance to work together. Gosh, it's been a while, 15 years ago. And we were still just trying to figure this business out. We, came in into that company at that time. It was kind of wild. I had moved 3,000 miles away, got married, and decided to build a business together. Wow, what a tornado. Like what not to do, right?
Yeah, and for people who don't know, of course, your husband Tony was, I think he was your sponsor in
I,
that
I was
company.
I actually sponsored my friend Bobby, and Bobby sponsored
That's
Tony.
what it was. It was Bobby
Yeah,
Mitchell. Yeah, yeah, it
yeah,
was Bobby
yeah.
Mitchell.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
Yes,
crazy.
and then so you two fell in love, got married, and Bobby lost a line.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Right?
if he's watching, he's still probably pissed.
Yeah. And
Sorry,
he's
Bobby.
probably watching.
I
Bobby,
know. He's awesome. He's awesome. Hey, I'm eternally grateful. If he wouldn't have brought him to the meeting,
yeah.
there's so many things that wouldn't have happened today in my life. Like I'm so grateful. But I just think about all the lessons and the things that you taught us, earlier today before even this podcast. I was just thinking, I mean, there's so many Randyisms, is that even a word, that you taught us over the years, that things that I teach and I'm like, oh yeah, God, I've said it so many times that I forget like it was what you had taught me, right? I've just repeated it so many things. And I just wanted to publicly say just thank you because Man, I know if Tony was on here today, he would say the same. I wish I could reach out and give you a big, huge hug and just know, like, just everything that you've done and continue to do. It really makes a big, big impact and has rippled on so many people, Randy, that you don't even know. And we just wanted to just say thank you.
Well, first, thank you. I received that with reverence and honor and humility. And it makes me think about what we do and why it matters.
Yeah.
Every job has meaning, right? We need people who can wash the cars, and we need people who can make the clock radios, and we need people who can do all the things in the world. But we're really blessed in that we get to be in a avocation occupation that we get to empower people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It seems so cliche to talk about transforming lives and making a difference. These are all cliches and even tropes sometimes that we hear a lot. But that's at the end of the day, that's what our business is about. It's empowering people. I just recorded a training for my team for something that's going to get broadcast tonight. And I was kind of relaying the story of when I got sponsored as a 20-year-old into Amway, and the guy was drawing the circles. And, you've heard me tell that story a million times, right? But that guy transformed my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I traded hours for dollars.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did. I did that because that's what my mom did, the single mom who raised three of us. She did it because that's what her father did. He did it because that's what his father did, and his father, and his father. And if you traced all of the generations of my family back to whoever was the first one who came across on the Mayflower from
Mm-hmm.
UK, we all, every generation traded hours for money. And then if you want to go further, take that generation on in England and go back however many million years to the caveman days. And every generation of my family tree traded time for money. And we all bought in the bullshit that time is money,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's what everybody says, time is money. And then when you get in this business, you realize no, only broke people think time is money because broke people don't understand leverage. They
Mm-hmm.
don't understand that if you can practice leverage, you get to escape the trading time for money trap.
Mm-hmm.
So only broke people think time is money. But yet, if we go out here in Miami, I go to the nearest bus stop and grab 100 people, a 99 or 100 out of 100 would say, yeah, time is money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was epiphany for me that you could employ leverage and
Mm-hmm.
escape that. And that guy, he dropped out of the business 3 or 4 months later, and I never saw or heard from him again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's 45 years ago, soon to be 40, it'll be 46 in a
Mm-hmm.
couple of weeks.
Yeah. April 6th.
And I don't know if he ever followed up or got back in the business or knows what I've been able to do, but through me, he has helped millions of people live better lives.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, it's wild. I think about when you were talking about too about the whole time, time is money. I think too for me, like so the neighborhood that we live in, we have lots of little kids here because we obviously have little kids and it's great they can be together. It's kind of the main reason that we moved in this area. But it's crazy because we go out on a Thursday afternoon at noon, like no one's freaking around. Like we're all and it all comes down to like we have choices where we never really had choices before, right? And I think that's a thing that's so great is that it gives you choices to do really design the life. Like you said, there's so many cliches in the business, but design the life that you love and that you want. And that's been the beautiful thing for us is we've been able to kind of, sure, we've worked our guts out, we've worked super hard and we've worked on ourselves, but the choice is like every day we're like, man, we get to choose. And man, you just can't put a price tag on that.
Yeah, one of the reason I bought my condo here, beside the location and what I liked about it and everything, it's just the amenities of the complex, right? The incredible pool area and clubhouse and all of that stuff. And I could go out there right now. There'll be nobody around that swimming pool.
I know.
And I can go anytime, day or night. I can go out, right? But the only time it's going to be busy is Sunday because all those people are working 6 days a week and they can't enjoy it because they don't have that freedom that we can create in this business.
Yeah. So I got to tell you something. So I was thinking about, you said bring some stuff to the table to talk about. I think one of the most profound uh things that you ever shared with Tony and I, and we still talk about it to this day, is I'll never forget, like we sat down and I think one of the things I appreciate about you so much, Randy, is you always sat down with people at the end of every month and really just kind of like just help them track their business, worked out where are they at, what do they need to do, kind of, a plan, do review type of thing, right? And I remember one of the times that we sat down with you, we sat down and the very first thing, like we were ready to go over our numbers, we were ready to do everything. And the very first thing you said is you said, how are you guys doing? How is your marriage? And that impacted Tony and I so much because we realized number one, it really was truly about building long-term relationships with people. But unless you have that stuff right, the rest of your business it doesn't really matter. Right. And so from that day forward, we really worked hard on growing each other, celebrating each other's differences as we work together. And I mean, now we're a well-oiled machine. But we just think about just, again, I think it goes back to what I shared in the beginning, where the power of having a good mentor in your life, whether it's now or you have one that's from afar or a mentor that comes into your life and goes kind of seasons, it's just everything. And, I just, again, it's just so cool to be able to have this conversation with you to be like, man, all that tough love and all that stuff that you gave us, like, sure, we might have been mad every once in a while, but also at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? Shit, he was right. you know? And I just appreciate you having those just really real conversations because that is what we now do inside of our business with our teams is we do set them up to win like you set us up to win. We slowed people down so they could speed up and helping them manage those expectations. And I mean, I still use the sheet that you showed us back in the day. We tweaked it and made it our own and changed it. We've kind of added some, it's kind of add another layer to it. But that's from you 15 years ago. And all of our leaders use it. And it's just, again, it's just the creating layered leadership and transferring that knowledge and guidance is, I mean, it's just gold. And it's just really cool. I just go back to like, for the people that are listening, you don't know the impact of one conversation you can have with someone. You don't know the impact of just one sentence that you just say to someone can just profoundly change and impact their life in such an awesome way, right?
A couple things jump out at that when you talk about that. First is just the idea of the monthly counseling. Why
Yeah.
I'm such a maniacal insistence, have such a maniacal insistence on it is because if you don't track your results, if you don't have some key indicators and you don't follow them, you can't mindfully manage your business and you can't mindfully grow your team and you can't mindfully create progress toward your goals because you just don't track it. And I was fortunate in my early in my job career. I worked for a restaurant company and they as a manager for the unit, I had to do my own profit and loss statement every month. Even, they had an accounting firm that did it officially and all that, but I had to submit it to the area, director every month. I had to call in my payroll every week. And then I did forms we did every week of all the what the came in and then what I paid out cash and then the bills that I sent to the company for them to pay, where they would send checks from the headquarters. And it all had to balance out. I had to balance out everything exactly to the money that was in the cash register each of those 7 days. And then the end of the month, I knew they gave me the amounts for like appreciation, depreciation, and things like that. And then I put what was the power bill, what was the water bill, what was my payroll. We did an inventory once a month, so I knew what my food cost was. I knew what the inventory I had on the 31st of last month at midnight and what was the inventory today and how much food came in and then how much sales came out. And I had to calculate my food cost. And then I got in network marketing. I'm like, these people don't track anything. And of course, I'm old enough that I joined in the stone age of the business. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have a mobile app that you could track just look at your business at any moment. We used to finish the month and then you'd get your check like the 15th. Everybody was monthly. Nobody did weekly plans then. So it was a monthly plan. You finish the month. You didn't even know what sales came in because there were people who mailed in checks for orders. We didn't have PayPal and Venmo and all of that stuff. And sometimes checks bounced and so you would get what you thought went in on the 30th, and then you waited 2 weeks, and then the check came with the report, and you got to see, oh, I had a great month, or oh, I had a terrible month. And I looked at that and I'm like, this is crazy. This is batshit crazy. These people don't track nothing. So I started tracking and create the sheet that you're talking about that you're
Yeah.
modified and still using. Because you got to know the math. Math doesn't lie, right? We talk about duplication, right? So that guy showed me 525, 125. Well, okay, we know it doesn't really go that way. Some people
Right.
more, some people do less, people drop out. We get all that. But still, the second level has to be more than the first level. The third level has to be wider than the second level. The fourth level has to be wider than the third level. That's math. Math doesn't lie. If you have 437 people in your team in the month of January, and then in February, if you track the numbers and you have 399 people, there has to be a fire alarm going off that, hey, there's a breakdown in the duplication because that number should have gone up. So that's the first thing that jump out when you share that story is, yeah, I learned because of my experience with the restaurant chain that, wow, you got to know what your key variables are, key economic, indicators, and you got to track them. How many
Mhm.
people in the team? How many people are going to events? How many people are active? How many people are on auto ship? If you don't track those numbers, then you really don't know the health of your business.
Mhm. Randy, I think too, why that report is so important is that, a lot of people have never built their own business, so they don't know any better, right? They've been, like you said, they've been this, employee forever and they don't
Right.
have an employee mindset. So it's like they come in, they're kind of just kind of winging it. They're trying to get a customer, they're trying to sign up a distributor, they're trying to kind of figure out their legs. So I think these reports are so important, number one, because I think that when you sit down with them and you go through all this with them, it takes them from being a recruit to actually you having a real business relationship with them. And it changes the tone for the whole thing. But it also is this, people are like, how do you get people to stick in your business? How do you get them to stay through the ebbs and flows? How do you, because you take the time to really establish that relationship. Like I have so many people that, I've been building my business for 12 years here that are they're with me, and they're with me because I took that time and I take that time to sit down and walk through with them, but also not just track their numbers, but also on that sheet is really spending time with them and figuring out how many people did you reach out to this month? How many conversations did you have? And really help them kind of like walk through that, because a lot of times if their business isn't growing where they want it to grow, they don't understand, right? So if you can really find out, well, I only followed up with 3 people, or I followed up with 20 people, but I couldn't get anyone to sign, that they're stuck with like helping people get over the line, right? So so I think that that's what's so beautiful is that you don't have to just kind of guess where people are at. I really know where every personal person in my business is every month. Exactly. Where do they need some help? Where do they need guidance? Where do they need a little bit of tweaking or encouragement? And that type of thing. And that just is what helps make you a great leader instead of just winging it. You're really lasered in on that person. And that just helps, obviously, that person has more success, right?
Yeah, and it's so like I'm in a weekly plan now. And so we close at midnight on Tuesday. So when I first started with it, I got in the back office on Monday and I went to each of my personal enrollees and check, and it says, you are 83% of your way to director rank, and this is what you need to qualify. So I took a screenshot for each one of those and I sent it to my personal enrollees. Hey, here's where you're at today. Look here's what you have to do to get to this rank by tomorrow. So like Ann Feinstein, who right?
Yeah.
Dear friend
Yeah.
for many years.
Yeah. Great girl.
So Ann is one of my personals, so I send her a thing. I know as soon as she gets it, her molars are grinding. What is
Yeah.
this son of a bitch sending? I've been in this business all these years, and now
Right.
this son of a bitch is going to send me this, like, do you know where you're at, Troy? But the next day she's like, when you sent that thing to me yesterday, but the more I thought about it, I immediately did the same thing with all of my people. And I
Yes.
sent it to
Yeah.
them like, hey, here's where you're at. And, what can you get to? And then she's taken it one step further. What does she call it? Something Wednesday. So, right, the thing closes on Tuesday nights. I
Oh,
think it's
yeah.
Declaration Wednesday, if I remember. So she has all her people send her a note every Wednesday, all of her personals. What are they declaring for that week? Are they
Oh,
just
yeah. Like a
gonna,
public thing. Oh, yeah. That's
yeah,
cool.
requalify at that level, or they got a new rank that they're gonna plan to hit that week, and so they make that, right? That's just tracking numbers. It's just, common sense. The other thing that jumped off when you told the story was, of course, the impact it had when I sat down and said, no, 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 how are you guys doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I do want to know the numbers with all my people when I counsel with them, but they're they're not as important as the other stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
And if I like, so I'm a weekly plan, so I don't want to counsel weekly or that's all you do. So I
Mm-hmm.
still pretty much counsel people monthly,
Mm-hmm.
but I've broken it up. So I do like 4 or 5 each week.
Mm-hmm.
And right. And so like if I think of the ones that I've done in this week so far, I can tell you there's 3 of them that was the topic of discussion. Wasn't, how many invitations did you get out this week? Or it was, hey, what is going on with this scenario in your life?
Yeah.
Because people are selling homes and waiting for offers, and they're facing marital challenges or they're facing health challenges, and that's the reality of the business,
Mm-hmm.
that it's about the person. And if we don't, and that's the part, that's why we get the big bucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is we learn to develop marriage counseling skills. We learn to develop psychology skills. We learn to develop conflict resolution skills. We learn
Mm-hmm.
to develop leadership skills. And that's not the stuff we teach people in the beginning because they're never going to duplicate if we make it about that. When they first come in, it's got, okay, get your hot list of people.
Yeah.
Here's
Let's,
the,
let's get you a win.
yeah, let's get you some customers. Let's get you some distributors. Let me take you through the candidate pathway you're going to bring them through. Here's the tools you're going to use. Here's some templates for some invitation, right? That's what we got to concentrate on. But once it gets going, as you know, once you have a team of more than, let's say, 10,000 people, it's never about the tactics.
Yeah.
It's always about the egos, the
Yeah.
conflict
Personality.
resolutions,
Mhm.
the personal challenges that people are facing. And for me, I'm really blessed because network marketing is my side gig. Even
Mhm.
though it made me one of the wealthiest people in society, for
Mhm.
me, it's just a side gig because I believe my day job is coaching people on prosperity,
Mm,
right? So I
yeah.
write my prosperity books and my blog and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm usually counseling on with my leaders is, hey, I think you bought into a story. I think you forgot about how amazing you are. I think you've been spending too much time on social media and hanging around with people who give you reasons why it can't be done and people who are watering down your dreams. And I think you started buying into stories and creating beliefs that no longer serve you. And that's a big part of what we do is just getting people back to the truth of who they are and what their potential is. And if you're like me and your default setting is that poverty is a sin and that
Mhm.
each of us is born to be healthy, happy, and prosperous. And when we're not manifesting a life of health, happiness, and prosperity, it's it's like an insult to the force that created us. Because that's my philosophy of life, that's often where my counseling goes. And, you know, I'm, I'm, it's shocking how good I have become at marriage counseling.
I
I will just
but
say
hey, so
that.
I want to talk about something if you don't mind, because I love that you are talking about belief, because I think that's one of the probably the biggest thing, that really holds people back in network marketing, right? Or I even think just in general is, and you've always taught us that, belief is the driver, right? And so like over the years, I've thought about and I've done like little trainings on like what I call belief boosters, right? And I think like how do you elevate people? Like how do you elevate people's belief, right? Because I really believe that the person that has the most belief wins. I mean, in our business. And
Mhm.
what are some things that you teach people in the profession to like boost belief? Like what are some of those things for them?
Well, think of the levels of what we teach. Most of the people teach tactics, right? Hey,
Mm,
here's how you get a candidate's phone number. Hey, here's what you do. You get on Instagram, you set up a page, then you go and you follow 10 people, and then you like 40 posts every day, and then you comment on 10 posts every day, and you make 5 posts every. That's all tactics, right?
mhm, mhm,
I never teach I don't want to say never. That's not true. I do teach tactics sometimes, but I teach them in the context of the second level of teaching, which is strategy. Most people have become very good at tactics, but they don't know strategy. Strategy is when should you do it
mm,
and why should you do it?
that's good.
So, like with the social media thing, instead of saying, well, okay, so you make 10 posts a day and you comment 40 times, and to me, it's like that's just your training people to be inauthentic, creepy salespeople. So why are
Agreed.
you going to be surprised when that doesn't work? If I take it up to the strategy and say, here's what I want you to do. I want you to make yourself findable in the world. So make sure you're findable on social media. Because if you meet some 27-year-old candidate and you're intrigued with them and they're intrigued with your idea and you make connection, as soon as they leave you, they're going to go check your Instagram page or your TikTok profile or your Facebook or whatever. And if you don't have any of those, if the last post you made was on MySpace, they're probably going to say, I don't know that this person is really relevant in business today. I don't know if I really should be working with someone like that because I live in my smartphone, and if they don't have a smartphone or they don't know how to use one, I don't know if they'd be a good mentor, coach, business partner for me. So I'm going to say, let's create a presence on social media, be findable, but keep it organic,
Mhm.
which is going to take me up to the next level of learning or teaching. Say
Mhm.
teaching, levels of teaching. Level one, you teach tactics. Level two, you teach strategy. Level three is you teach principles. So principles transcend time, space, place, everything. The
Mhm.
principles that Socrates taught were still principles when Napoleon Hill taught them, and they're still principles when you teach them. So if I'm teaching the principle, which is, hey, meeting people's a skill, go out, live life, live more life, do the same thing online you would offline, which is you meet people, you let the relationship develop, look for what their needs are. When the time is right for them, then you could give them an invitation to look at a tool that might allow them to have an epiphany. And so, and then if we want to go one level above that, just say, okay, what's the ultimate thing? It's you be the change. You call it essence. You model the behavior. You live the kind of life that you run your business in a way that people want to be like you. And
Mhm.
if they did model your behavior, they're going to get positive results. So I always look at it that way, like, okay, am I the greatest way to get people to their potential is to be the potential myself. I have to model the behavior. And then I just find that I have to remind them that they are supposed to be healthy, happy, and prosperous. And
Mhm.
so, one of the people I was coaching this week, I just took her back to a time when she had built 4 medical centers 20 years ago, where she moved to a new state. She had an idea. Her and her husband, they took out a loan, mortgage, everything. They started a medical center. It was really successful. Then they did a second one. It was successful. They did a third one. They did a fourth one. And I'm like, you do remember that you're the person who did that, right? It's like, yes. You remember that when you needed money for something, you wanted a swimming pool for the kids, and you just said, okay, I need $11,000 for this swimming. And you went out and you manifested it, right? Because that's what I do. Like, right, I get a quote to remodel my kitchen was $187,000. So I said, all
Right.
right, I have to go manifest $187,000 for my kitchen because I don't want to do any credit. I don't want to take loans. I'm going to
Right.
manifest that money. So I manifested that. That's how I think of it. When I want a new car, okay, I'm going to manifest 250K so I can get that car. And I create the value for the universe. Well, this lady, everybody can do that. Most people don't know they can do that because nobody's told them they could do that. And even if they've done it, they don't even realize they did it, or they don't know how they did it. They just they bought into the bullshit of the data sphere that money is bad and rich people are evil and it's humble and spiritual to be poor, and they forgot their essence. So I just reminded her of, you remember we did those, because I knew that story. And it was like, that's what she needed. Another one, it was just, it's a speaker slash consultant who I met through the course of my speaking slash consulting. And, I'd met her, man, like 20 years ago, maybe 15 or 20 years ago. And I just knew it was an event with, it was a big weekend event. And there was like 15 speakers on the program. I was one of the speakers. She was one of the speakers. I met her then, and I'm like, damn, she is a fireball. This lady gets shit done. She was powerful.
Yeah.
So I don't see or hear from her. I haven't talked to her in a decade. And now I'm sitting around one day a couple of months ago, and I'm looking, okay, I need to set aside a block for inviting. I need to pull out my candidate list. And then her name popped up. So I reached out to her, and she joined the business. Well, just so happened she went through a really horrific health challenge and something else, and life kind of beat her up a little bit. And
Mhm.
so I just had to remind her, do you remember when we met, what you were doing, who you are, how you carried yourself, how you manifested things when you needed? She was like, holy shit, you're so right. I bought into it. And like for people who are interested, you should go to my blog. I'm gonna, I want to make sure I get the title right of this. Because I just kind of did a confession. Oh yeah, Confessions of a Prosperity Guru. So we'll put that in the show notes, but
Awesome.
for you guys watching, go and read that after you're done with the show. And I did that. I bought into the bullet. What happened is you going anywhere? You in a hurry? You got time for a story?
Me?
Right?
No,
Yeah.
I'm so indie. I'm so into, hey, this is
All
like
right.
12 years in the making. I'm so good right
All
now. I'm
right.
so good right
I don't want to bore you to death,
Oh
but
no, I love this. This is great. Are you kidding?
so this thing happened in 2020. You might have heard about it. It was called COVID,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
they locked down everything, and I now while I say we could go all the way back to the caveman days and say there was nobody in my family who ever knew what leverage is, we could also almost say there's no one in my family who is much of an entrepreneur, who isn't used to just be an employee, who maybe has some limiting beliefs, some poverty consciousness, perhaps, blah, blah, blah. So when COVID rolls around, I have people that in my family that needed support. And I had people who worked for me who needed support. And I had guys I played softball with who were undocumented and they couldn't work and they had no source of income. And all of a sudden I realized, okay, my business I lost in April, in a 10-day period, I lost $1,100,000 worth of business off the book, poof, in a 10-day period.
Yeah.
Contract speeches, things like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
speaking business.
Yeah.
Now, you take $1 million hit in 10 days, that's
Yeah.
a hit.
That'll hurt a little bit.
Even for a resourceful person like me. So I take that hit. My business is shut down, and I'm supporting like 5 families through this whole lockdown pandemic thing. And it was the first time in decades at the end of the year, my net worth was less than it was at the start of the year.
Mm. Mm.
And I took out lines of credit that I didn't normally do. I was completely debt free. My house, cars, everything. I'm a
Yeah.
debt free. That's my whole, philosophy.
Yeah, us too.
And what I write in this blog thing is how that just kind of carried into 21 and 22. And it kind of, I finally woke up like, what happened? This isn't me. I never had this fear-based, but I'm going to be 66 in like a couple weeks.
You know that my dad and you have the same birthday, so I never forgotten your birthday.
Oh, your dad's birthday?
Ever. Every April 6th, I sing a Randy Gage. Every year. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Anyway, so
why.
keep going. So keep going. I
So,
can't get away from you, Randy. What the heck? Ever. You're like imprinted in my brain.
yeah, so when all this business shuts down and I'm like, God, I'm in my 60s. I'm going to be 65 soon. I'm just shuffling off to the big opportunity meeting in the sky. Who's gonna hire an old broken down warhorse like me anyway? I should, kind of reduce my financial footprint and, prepare that my income is not going to increase every year like it has been for decades. That I should prepare myself that, yeah, maybe I want to make less money. And I just bought into that because that's what society tells
Mm,
you. And
hmm.
I realized, no, that's not me.
Yeah.
I can manifest whatever I need.
Yeah.
There's no reason I won't do more business this year than last year. There's no reason I won't have a bigger income next year than this year. And I just reminded myself
Mm, hmm.
about the principles of prosperity, which I've been teaching for 35 years, right? It's one
Right.
thing if you study them. I didn't just study them, I've been teaching them for God's sake.
Right. Right.
So I'm like slapping myself upside the head and so I guess because that was on my mind, that's been really like, I was doing the one counseling session with one of them, and she was talking about, well, here's how many people I contacted, and here's how many said this, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even want to talk about that shit. That's not the issue for you. It's not your list. It's not your invitation. It's not your follow-up. We got to talk about your self-belief, who
Hmm.
you are and who you see yourself as. And we got to
Hmm.
get you back to who you really are.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I've always had a gift for that I think has served me so well in network marketing because I often see the greatness in people before they see it in themselves.
Hmm. That was something that you always taught us too. I mean, again, I don't forget it, where you were like, I believe that so and so is going to do whatever until they prove me otherwise. That's a Randy Gage quote. And I love that because that's the same thing for us where it's not necessarily falling in love with their potential, but it's like, all right, I believe you're going to be this. This is, and until you show me any other way, this is what I'm going to believe. I love that you talk about kind of like where you're at. Cause one of the things that I actually wrote down, and actually my third thing, which is crazy, was reinventing yourself. And I think that, for people that are listening, maybe they've been involved before, maybe they've been in their same company for 10, 12 years, or even 5 years, right? And it's so easy for it to kind of get stale because at the end of the day, we're doing the same thing every day, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and so it's like, how do you shake that up? How do you reinvent yourself to kind of keep you on fire? How do you reinvent yourself to keep growing? And that's a big thing that Tony and we've done, and I think the last probably 3 years, we've kind of gone through a whole nother reinvention. But I mean, we've gone through since I met you, probably 6, 7, but it was just
Yeah.
because we have been growing so much, right? So, I mean, do you feel like you're kind of going through a reinvention of you this last year?
I feel like I'm on my sixth or seventh midlife crisis.
Yeah.
And I hope to have 5 or 6 more midlife crises before I die. Uh,
Yeah.
this was really the impetus for my book, Radical Rebirth, was
Mm.
I just learned that, you know what? I never knew this when I wrote the book. I wrote the book because many years ago, on a dreary Christmas Eve in Miami, I was at the airport Marriott in a dreary room with dreary carpet.
We know those rooms.
Yeah. And, um, but some Marriotts are really nice, but this
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
airport Marriott next
That's
to
what I mean.
the dumpster with the hotel next door is my view. And I mean, it's Christmas Eve. I've just broken up my 11th negative dysfunctional relationship in a row. So I've moved out of the house. I want to be the good guy. So I say, just keep everything, keep the house, keep the furniture, keep everything. I'm going to take my car. I'm going to take my clothes. I'm going to pay all the bills. I don't want any drama. I just want this to
I'm just
I
out.
want to give us each a fresh start and, had millions of, frequent points with the Marriott program. So I went to the airport Marriott. Now, why I didn't think go to a nice resort Marriott, that's where my consciousness was at the time because I was so beat down after all these negative
Yeah,
relationships.
yeah.
So I was there on New Year's Eve. I mean, sorry, Christmas Eve, and I wrote my suicide letter to
Oh,
myself
oh, wow.
in my journal.
Oh,
It wasn't a dramatic suicide note for the world. It was to myself because I was processing like,
yeah,
what is the point of me being here anymore? It's
yeah.
just, why am I fighting this fight? And thankfully, I had put in a call to my therapist and he understood and called me back and,
Mm,
talked me back from making a temporary, a permanent decision for a
mhm,
temporary situation.
mhm, mhm.
Um, and I never knew when I wrote Radical Rebirth, but the reason I wrote it was that night.
Mm,
Because what came out of that night was understanding that I didn't have to, even though I hated myself and I hated my life, I didn't have to kill myself. I could kill off the parts of myself or the
mm,
parts of my life that I hated.
mm.
And I could reinvent myself, as you
Oh,
say.
it's so good.
And
So
that's
good.
why the title became Radical Rebirth. It wasn't until the book came out, I'm doing the book tour and I'm on all these TV and radio shows and podcasts and it dawned on me, that's why I wrote that book.
Oh,
I
yeah, that's
needed
so good.
to share that message that I learned facing down death like that, to share that with other people, to know that, yeah, you can reinvent yourself at any time.
Yeah,
And so I joke about it. My friends would be like, well, Randy's on his fifth midlife crisis now, right? And I'm like, yes, I hope so. And I hope there's six more along the way. Because I do give myself permission to just reinvent myself. You saw even with Agile, I said at one point, I said, you know what? I'm going on a sabbatical. I'm
yeah,
just, I'm
yeah,
shutting down my YouTube, my social media, my blog, everything. I'm not going to enroll anyone personally. I need to, because that was the point. Agile was getting bought and the new people were fucking up everything. And, I was like, I
mm.
can't really even sponsor someone. You and Tony were gone by that time. So, but,
Yeah,
the
yeah. We
JV
left, but then
people
it was,
had,
but it was pretty quickly though, after you though. I mean, after we,
yeah,
it at all. I mean, it
yeah. So those guys came
basically all on
in.
the same page.
Yeah, the VC company that bought them
Yeah,
and they were just sucking all the money out of it and everything. And I'm like, I can't look someone in the eye and say you should enroll in this. So I'm like, I'm going to go on sabbatical and I'm just going to see if this is able to work out in the meantime. And I just worked on me every day.
yeah.
Sometimes I read 3 books in a day. Sometimes I
What are you
listened.
reading? What are you reading right now?
What am I reading right now is I'm reading 50 Cent, his book called Hustle Harder, Hustle
Uh-huh.
Smarter.
Uh-huh.
I'm reading The Mountain Is You
Oh, yeah,
from,
isn't that a great book?
yeah, I just
I
started.
read.
I had read her other book, 101 Essays to Change Your Mind,
Oh,
which
I've never read that
is
one yet.
beyond
Oh, wow.
brilliant.
Oh, wow.
Speaking of my blog for you, this is at randygage.com for anyone else. Where is it? Yeah, so about a month ago, I wrote the top 10 books to transform your life.
Ooh, I gotta go in
10
there and
books
look.
to transform your life.
I love
And
it.
so that was, and so this isn't like the greatest books of all time or whatever. It's just these are the books if you want to transform yourself. So I
Mhm.
wrote my 10, and one of them was that book from Brianna Wiest, uh, who just a buddy of mine from the gym recommended it to me. I got it, and I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So I bought her the mountain one, but I've actually just started that, so I haven't got far in that. And then what else is out there? I always read like 3 to 5 books at one time.
Me too.
Oh,
I'm
it's the
terrible.
one, the
Have
other one
you?
I'm reading is Dr. Peter Attia,
Oh,
Outlive or something. It's just, he's a wellness, he's a doctor who really does a lot in life
have you read the
extension.
book The Body Keeps Score?
Years ago, I did, yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's hot. That book's hot again right now.
Is it?
People, yeah, a lot of people are reading that. I'm actually reading an interesting book called The Anxious Generation because obviously I'm a mom and it's all about kids and just all the stuff, right? And it's just so like eye-opening and it's just like, holy shit. I mean, it's just, with phones and tablets and, there's a majority of all the kids out there nowadays, by the time they're 6 are like more anxious than ever. I mean, it's just wild. So it just give you some really cool things to just kind of help you open up your eyes and know how to navigate better as a parent and just through all of it. It's just, man, it's hard being a parent in 2025. It's
Oh man, and I'm not a parent, but if I was a parent, I will tell you this, my kid would not be allowed on social media until they were at least 15.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if I'd for sure let them on at 15, but I know under 15, I would not, I would age gate. And I believe as a country, as a society, we should age gate social
Mhm,
media companies
mhm.
because they are so destructive, and
Oh, yeah.
particularly to kids with developing minds. From the age from like 10 to 22 or something, 12 to 22, that's when the majority of all your brain development is done. And it's when the majority of your core foundational beliefs about all the important stuff, some of it's done like, when I talk
By
about,
5, some of it, they say.
yeah, your beliefs about religion and God, sex and sexuality,
Mm,
health and wellness, work and career, you get those kind of formulated before you're 10. You could
mm,
argue before you're 8.
mhm.
And man, if you're on Instagram and all you see is all these photoshopped, filtered,
Oh, it's crazy.
Botox, bimbos,
I know. It's crazy.
I mean, if you're a young, impressionable girl, 8 or 9 or 10 years old, and that's your influence is those things. If you're a boy and you see the other side of the equation, I mean,
Oh, for sure.
it's what it is, what you said, anxious.
Big
They're
time.
just anxious.
I
They're,
know.
because the business model for those platforms is anger and fear. And
Mhm,
if you're in anger and fear all the time, it's just you're anxious all the time.
mhm. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So,
Yeah.
what have you learned being parents, working from home, raising a family?
Um,
What have you
I
learned that you would share with other working moms and dads?
um I think that you can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time.
Right, right.
I think that is something, I think that I think nowadays network marketing, so many companies have just really great systems that are in place that allow people to really work at part-time. Where I think back in the day, when I got started and even before that, when you got started, like so many people was kind of like full-time or nothing. And I
Yeah.
just feel like we've done a better job inside the profession of supporting part-time people while they're raising kids, going to college, careers, etc. Where I think people actually feel like this is actually doable. Like I could really do something here. But I think too, I think that if you don't have another income stream, I just think you're crazy. And I mean, it's just like just now more than ever, you know, just having another income stream, a safety net, a plan B, whatever it is so important. But I think too, I love that. I feel like network marketing is so mainstream now that, when I first got started, it was weird to talk to people. It was weird to have conversations, or I should say, it was harder. And now people are so open and they're so receptive. And now it's not so much like, oh, network marketing, what is that? It's like, oh, what company are you with?
Yeah.
Like there's so many
100%.
people, right, that are involved in that piece. But I think, I think that one thing, Randy, like I see that there's kind of two different cultures out there, right? We see, especially on social, where like on social, some people say, work your butt off, you can sleep when you're dead, what I mean? All that's like super, super hustle crazy. But then I also see the other side of the pendulum where it's so hardcore, where it's like anti-hustle, right? And I'm like, listen, you got to figure out what you want. Like if you want to make six figures in this business, you are going to have to hustle. I hate to break it to you. You aren't going to like, it's mad. It's just but I do feel that one of the things that I feel like I've done a good job at now, having two kids, I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, is we have figured out kind of the blueprint of like how to hustle, but with boundaries. And so it's teaching people like, how do you actually do that? What does that actually, what does that actually look like? Right. But I think for me, it is hard as a parent of trying to, you know, make it happen. I'm type A driver, obviously, that. Like how do I, stay fulfilled and have that sense of accomplishment and do those things, but also at the same time be a great mom, right? And so I think my biggest thing that I've learned is I've learned that balancing, because that was a big thing for me. I think probably my first 4 years with having kids, I really struggled with, like, trying to balance, and then I kinda had to have, like, a come to Jesus meeting with myself where it's like, that's not really real, but what is real is whoever you're with at that moment, at that time, being present with them. And so that's what I started focusing on, Randy. So now I don't have the mom guilt. I don't have these other things where I feel like, oh, I have this sense of overwhelm or I can't do it all or whatever, because like right now, like with you, there's a gazillion other things happening in my life, but I'm like fully present with you, right? And when I'm with my kids, I'm fully present with them, even if it's just 5 minutes, like that's all they want. I would much rather give my kids like everything of me for 5 minutes than a whole day that's just shit. Me on and off the phone, me doing this, doing that, whatever. So I just really focused on like whoever I'm with at that moment, I'm totally with them. And that served me well. I mean, I feel like it's gone great. My team members feel loved, they feel appreciated. My husband feels appreciated. My kids feel, it's just that piece, and so that's kinda helped me kinda juggle it with being a mom, running a business, trying to be a good wife, raising kids, trying to be a good friend, good neighbor, all that stuff in between. But the present piece for me, that saved me big time.
How you handle it with Tony? Do you guys have like a date night or a non-work block that you have like structured some way to shut down the business at certain times?
For sure. I mean, you always taught us date night, right? So for us, we figured Wednesdays. Wednesdays are great. It's the middle of the week for us. So it's kind of something that we look forward to, gives us a chance to like take a breather, shut down, and then we can go back into it. But I think too, what I love is that we actually have more than one date night or day date or whatever it is, because we've worked hard at our business. We did have to sacrifice a little bit, but now it's like for us, I mean, we can almost pick any day. We couldn't do that in the beginning, right? We had to have it more structured out. And I think too, with our kids too, we try to set up separate things individually, where Tony will do things just with Ava. Tony will do things just with Hudson. We'll do, you know what I mean? So we try to separate that out too, which is really fun. But one thing that you did such a great job with teaching us is like creating a reward system for our kids and for us, right? I think, and I mean that's been such a powerful thing, Randy. Oh, that you shared with us. I can't tell you how many people we have done trainings with and shared this with that's just helped them where it's like, how do you get your spouse or your partner to buy into your vision or buy into your business if like you're the one that signed up and they're not on board yet, right? And it's really having, make good, moving it from your business to our business, right? Where they're not resentful because you're maybe on more Zooms than you wanted to be, or it's a busy season of your business or whatever it may be. It's setting up that reward program where it's like, all right, so this month it's going to be a little bit crazy, Tony. So at the end of the month, when our goal is to do this, when we do this, what should we do together? I want you to pick the reward. What do you want it to be? And they love that because now they're buying in, right? And we do that with our kids. So we do it monthly with our kids. We do it 90 days with our kids. Sometimes we put up, we go to Walgreens and we buy white tag board and we put it up towards a goal. And now my kids are like, instead of them going, "Are you on the phone?" They're like, "You need to talk to so and so." I mean, now they're like, it's hilarious, right? Because they're like, "Hey, we want to do this thing." So, it's that concept of having rewards for yourself, with your spouse or partner, with your kids, right? Everybody just loves those little carrots and it keeps it fun. And that part is awesome in our family. I think that's what keeps our business light, where sometimes I feel like the business can get heavy a little bit just because it can be sometimes intense and just a lot of stuff happening. The rewards program that we do, it keeps it fun. It really does, and it keeps our whole family engaged in the business too, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. That's good to hear. I didn't remember. I asked about the date night because I didn't know if back then I was counseling that or if that was more recently that I felt
No,
like that was important.
you definitely did that. I think I might have even called you because it was like the straw that broke the camel's back is Tony and I went out to lunch. I don't even know where we were somewhere. I remember we're sitting in a booth and I'm sitting there and he's like, "Oh, I got to take this call." Right. And of course, that was back in the day before you realize like the calls can wait. No one's going to die because you don't take the call. Right. And that was just before we had the emotional maturity and all that stuff in the business. And I remember he got up and went out. I was like, all right. But then I looked out the window. I was sitting right there at the booth, looked out the window, and I saw my husband freaking pacing on outside of the restaurant with me. And I was like, dude, I can't do this. This is crazy to me. And then that's when we talked. And then you're like, guys, you got to do the date night thing. You got to do this. You got to shut that stuff down. And he did, and we did. We did together. It went both ways. But
Hmm.
I remember that. I mean, that was very vivid to me because I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy." We broke the crazy cycle, Randy. We did it. Believe it? We're gonna be married 20 years. Tony and I will be married 20 years in October.
Yeah, good
Yeah,
deal. Good for you
yeah, it's great.
guys.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
We work hard at though. You know what I mean? We work
Yeah.
hard on.
Relationships are real work.
Oh yeah.
They're real work. What, you got anything else on your list we need to look at?
I wrote down the other thing that I have put down is helping people understand about that we built that building in seasons, right? I think that's kind of an important thing for people to learn about. And, I think for us, the way we learned is we just experienced it, right? And just understanding that, you're going to have seasons that are hot and seasons that aren't. And I think too, like just especially being a parent, I mean, I think about like my first, my first 6 months of having my kids. Like there's just a lot of stuff that can happen. And, some days are going to be great. And some days like all you got, I mean, there was days that I was like, all right, guys, everybody's going to bed, including me, because there's nothing else we can do here. We're shut down. And I was just like, we're going to wake up tomorrow and we're going to start fresh. Right. And so it's
Uh-huh.
just, knowing that you're going to go through some of those seasons, but also too, like the seasons, like for Tony and I, because we built together, it was learning how to have the maturity of not keeping score. Right. And understanding that, there's going to be sometimes maybe a month that he just has an off month. And I just have to pick it up and I got to be okay with it. And I don't have to remind him that I'm picking it up. I just do it. Right. And, maybe there might be one month that he has more people enrolled than me, but he doesn't hold me to it. Right. He doesn't, and I think just understanding like, because we've gone through a lot of different seasons like that with just different situations, like a year and a half ago, he lost his sister tragically. She worked in our business with us full time. She's amazing rising star. And, like, shit, that's hard. You know what I mean? Like that hit you like a 2x4, and just learning how to navigate through all of that. And, you know, he's coming on the other side. I mean, it's been so beautiful to see what's come out of that the last 2 years with Tony. It's just really cool. But yeah, just understanding that, like, just building in seasons and being okay with it. And, just understanding like it's just a long-term thing. It's just hard because, as you know, everything in life, I just feel like, and maybe it's just the older we get, but everything is just going so fast, right? And people still have now more than ever that whole instant gratification where it's like, God, I just hate it. And it's just takes so much for you to just really help people break through on that piece and really be like, man, you can't give yourself an exit strategy. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
can't do it. I'm going to try this for 90 days and see what works. It's like, people ask us, well, how'd you guys have the success that you have? And we just never gave ourselves an out, Randy. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I'm just going to do this until I figure it out. But I also decided this was going to be my craft. And I said, "You could be shitty at it or you could be great." And I'm like, "I wanna be good." So I had to look at myself and I had to own up to my things and I had to work through my insecurities and all of that. And I mean, I'm so grateful for it all, because I see people that come in and, it's kind of like what you call the pop and drops, right? Where it's like people come in, they skyrocket and they have this amazing story. And then the next thing you know, you don't ever hear from them again, or that you hear that story of someone crushing it immediately, but most people can't relate to that. So I love the fact that, my first 3 years in network marketing, I didn't enroll one person, but I figured it out and people can relate to that part. And I
Yeah.
people relate to the part that my business fell apart and I rebuilt it and things happened. And, so I think it's just encouraging people to be proud of their story and proud of the seasons they go through in the business because that's what makes you relatable. Like I love everything that's happened to me in the business over the last 28 years because every time that happens, it's part of my chapter in my story that I feel is going to encourage and empower somebody because I know somebody's going to go through that same thing, right?
Yeah. Right.
So I love that part. It's actually my favorite part of the business. Whenever crap happens in my life, I'm like, ooh, this is going to make a great chapter. That's what I tell myself. This is going to be awesome. Versus the woe is me victim, right? That you teach us not to be, right? Oh my gosh, I suck, blah, 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 blah. People go down that rabbit hole. I've learned now how to like flip that switch and be like, oh God, this is going to be a great story to tell one day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's all new material.
I know,
All
right?
new
But you got to
material.
learn that and you got to teach people that because they don't know that, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just don't know it. You just can't assume they know because man, we don't know. I didn't know, right? I know now, but I didn't know back then.
Is there one book more than any other that was most impactful for you in your life?
Um, Probably the early books that I first read when I got into network marketing, traditional like Think and Grow Rich, which I think I probably understood 2 chapters out of all of them because I was 21, I didn't really understand a lot of it. But How to Win Friends and Influence People, I really, really love that. I mean, I think that's a lot of my personality is just the relationship building and, just really kind of, I don't know. I think over the years I've learned how to what I call like just love people into their success story. You know what I mean? Meeting people where
Hmm.
they're at, helping them work through that's up, but just loving them into it. I think that those 2 books probably, and then I think too, like The Magic of Thinking Big, right? Helped me early on in my career just see what's possible, right, for my life and thinking bigger. And, I never really dreamed before. I mean, I was a nanny, I didn't really have all these big aspirations. I mean, at the end of the day, Randy, I mean, the reason I got a network marketing is I wanted to be somebody. Nothing else, Randy. I didn't come in this business because I wanted to make money. I didn't come in because of anything. Like I wanted to be somebody because at that time of my life, I didn't feel like I was anybody. And I'm just so grateful for the profession because like you said at the beginning of the podcast, it's the transformation. It's like, man, going back to that girl that had the insecurities, that wanted to be somebody, that wanted to make a difference, that, you know, cared so much about people and wanted to be used like in a positive way, right? And then enters network marketing. And then here I am 30 years later. It's just like, wow, it's it's a huge blessing.
Well, you have become somebody for sure.
Thank you. Feel like
Congratulations on
I feel,
that. You truly, truly have.
yeah. Well, thank you to you too.
All right. Well, we have a tradition on this podcast.
Oh boy. Okay.
I always last thing ask someone, what was the worst presentation nightmare you ever went through? Worst rejection or worst presentation like that? Because some of these stories are just
Well,
incredible.
I have 2, but I'll keep them short. So the first one is actually an agile. It's hilarious. I don't even know if you probably don't even know this. So I was living in Tony. I at the time I just got married, was living in Sacramento with Tony. We were doing a home meeting, right? Private business reception. We had a whiteboard up and like the frame, like, the frame was all janky or the whatever the stand was. So like half
Uh-huh.
crooked. So Tony was in front of the room. It was super hot. Our air conditioning wasn't working. The room was like, we probably had like, I don't know, 10 people in there. And Tony's in there doing a presentation. This is so damn funny. He's looking at the whiteboard, he's drawing everything, drawing everything, drawing everything. And he's not thinking because he has ADHD, so he's moving 90 miles an hour. And he's erasing things with his hand as he's writing, right? For some reason, he didn't grab an eraser. So as he's wiping down, he's sweating, he's wiping the
Oh.
marker all over his
Oh
face
no.
all of, like literally it looks his whole face is covered and no, but no one can see this because he's facing the board, dude. So all of a sudden he turns around and we're all like, oh my god.
Oh no.
And like the guests, like we were all like, oh my god, like we were crying laughing. He had no idea what was happening. Thank god they actually, like, half the room signed. I think it was probably like a pity enrollment. I'll never forget that day. It was so funny. But
No.
probably worse, the funny, I don't know. I don't look at him as a worst, but I look at him as funny. I was doing a presentation. I was pretty brand new in the business. I was like 24 at the time. I was working out of Cleveland, Ohio, of all places. And I was in front of the room, and in the second row, there was this older lady, and she had a gray wig on, right? And so so I'm doing the presentation. And as I'm doing the presentation, I don't know if she like fell asleep for a second. I have no idea what happened. But all of a sudden she like leans forward and like falls out of her chair. And I'm in the middle of doing the presentation. She's like almost kind of in the aisle. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? And all of a sudden I saw her get up, and she tried to adjust her wig and she adjusted her wig and was like sideways.
Oh no.
Just
Oh no.
sits there. And I'm like, oh my God. And everyone around starts laughing. Like, it was the craziest thing. And I'm like, oh my God. But you could see it was so obvious. It was like a long wig. And I just started laughing. Everyone was like, it was so
Oh
funny.
no.
And
Oh
I almost felt
no.
like I was pranked. I mean, it was
Oh.
so crazy. I thought someone was in the room. I forgot the rest of the presentation. Basically, I was crying, laughing. It was so funny, but it was just so, I mean, it was just so weird. It was like the weirdest thing that's anyways, I have so many like that, but I love this business because of it. It's just like that's what's so fun. What's your crazy one or funny one that you had?
Oh, it was also in the agile days, because as you know, we had the gel packs. So I've got a guy, Milton, here in Miami, bright guy, speaker, TV host. He'd been on Univision, so he's very well known. We do his launch party at his house. He packs the house with royalty. I mean, these were bunch of TV anchor people, um, politicians, really
Cream of the crop.
A-list,
Yeah,
A-list people, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I had all those back surgeries I had to do because I had
Oh, yeah.
spinal stenosis and everything. So sometimes, particularly back then, before the surgeries, when I would get up, I would be in a lot of pain and I would, jerk, out of the pain or something. So I was in the chair and he introduced me, and then I was getting up to go to the front of the room to start the presentation. And I had jump packs on the chair. And what was the yellow one, the weight loss one? What
Oh,
was that?
fit, fit.
Fit.
Yeah.
So there's a gel pack of Fit on the armchair. I knock it off as I get up. I don't notice it, but I bump it, it goes on the floor. And then I lose my balance a little. I get in pain and I move and I like take a side step to keep my balance and I step on a pack of Fit. It explodes onto this $2,000 pantsuit,
Oh gosh.
Armani gorgeous pantsuit from this television anchor, a lady. And I
Oh
mean,
my
it
God.
was just, it was just a nightmare. It was the start of the presentation. I'm like, nothing flummoxes me, but I was just apoplectic, apologizing to her, and you were trying to clean it off with paper towels and water and whatever. And I'm, you know, I s- give me the dry cleaning bill, it's all mine. But it was just disaster.
Yeah.
And so I
And that
always,
product actually was kind of thick and goopy. Remember
it
that
was
fit?
very thick and goopy, and it
Yeah.
it didn't look good on a pantsuit. I will tell you that.
Yeah, yellow.
And
Oh,
it
no.
was so I don't know. We've been asking people that because what happens, the people on these chop it ups, they're all superstars, and I know there's people who watch and listen. They think, oh, these perfect people and everything in their life is perfect. And it was so easy for them to build a business. And I bet everybody says yes to them and they never get any rejection and nobody ever drops out. And, I wish I had a perfect experience like they do, but my life is different. It's harder for me. And then when they see that all of us, all of us have gone through those things, it just lets them know that, yeah, they can get through those things.
Oh yeah, they can definitely do it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, growing up in the business, I wish we had a podcast like this. You know what I mean? I just feel like for me, when I was newer in the business, Randy, like there just wasn't a lot of mentorship. There's a lot of people signing people up in the business, but not a lot of people that just really poured into people and just really had a heart like you, where you're just like, man, I just want to pass along just all this good guidance and wisdom from yourself and from other people that you have on the podcast, just to just to pay it forward at this point. And I mean, I'm just so glad you're doing this, because there's just so many people that maybe don't have a good sponsor, or they don't have a lot of support, or they don't really have a great system in their company, or whatever it is. Like, this is kind of like the next thing for them that they can plug into and um, help create some success for them. Like, I think it's such a cool idea.
Let me tell you, the people who listen to this podcast, if you wanted to know the all-time greats, the Hall of Famers, the top 1%, the absolute rock stars of our profession, that's who listens to this every week. Because I'm telling you, I get, my phone blows up and the favorite episodes for all of them are the chop it up ones, because we never know where to go. I've done some really powerful training segments. I don't phone
Yeah.
this in. I try to really give people value when I sit down and I do a podcast, and I do it every week. It's a labor of love. There's a lot of times I'm like, how am I going to find? But I make the time because I think it's important. But I can tell you the chop it up ones are the ones that just, my phone blows up, and I know who's listening because of the texts and the DMs and the emails that I get. Because it just kind of, I don't know what I got the format, because I listened to Tim Ferriss's podcast. Is one of the ones I listen to, and he does these random shows with Kevin Rose every so often, and they just, each of them brings some things they want to talk about, and then they just jam. And I thought, man, it would be incredible to do that with network marketing leaders. And I know the brightest, best people in the profession. I can reach out to any of them at any time. They have such a wealth of knowledge to share. So I'm going to try it. And as soon as I did it, so for you guys watching, listening, it's called the Duplication Nation MLM Pod, if you're here for the first time. And I need to do more of these chop it up. It's just,
Oh, I love it. You
I
totally
don't,
should.
because then it's a scheduling thing, and it's just tougher to get my schedule with these people. We're all busy people. So, but, so I kind of got away from them for a while, but I'm getting back into them because they just keep asking for it. They cannot get enough of the chop it
Yeah.
up. So, which brings me to you, Sarah Zolecki. Thank you so much
You.
for agreeing to do this, being a part of it, sharing your story, your insights. I know it has blessed people, and I know that young lady who just joined the business because she wanted to be somebody has definitely become somebody, and we're all better for it. So thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and the rest of you, like, subscribe, share, tell your team about it, and we will see you next time. Peace. Hey, do me a favor before you go. Please rate this podcast and then share it with people you know who could benefit from the business building advice here. And then if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're on one of the other platforms that allow comments, please get down below, give us a shout out to the community in the comments section. Thanks.